Good afternoon, Ian here, going through the last of the summer's process mapping course. This is the same one I have presented throughout the summer, so if you have seen this previously, there is nothing new at this particular session for you to go through. As usual, I'm just going to chat a little bit at the beginning here while we wait for others to join us. And while I also just check to make sure that you guys can hear me and you're not just staring at a blank screen. And so I'm just going to check that now, and then we will see where we are at. So hopefully everyone is well today. Now, obviously, this is hopefully everyone. There you go, that's perfect. Now, this is obviously a prelude to next week's process mapping course, which we're no longer taking bookings for the obvious reasons but just before. But it's still good to go through why process maps are important. And we are holding the course again in January. So if you haven't booked on for next week, you can join us in January from the 10th to the 14th, where I'll be going through again how to generate process maps for your business and going through all the elements in terms of the creation, the questions you'll be asking, everything we're doing next week, we're repeating again. And although we won't do it every 3 months, which will be December's a busy month. And so we came to the conclusion to host it again in January. So just when you're getting over those Christmas blues, join me for some exciting topics on process mapping. Apologies. So we'll be starting very shortly, but just initially, I just want to just chat a little bit while people get comfortable and we see who's joining us. As I said, this is about the 10th one I've done this year. And so it's understandable that a lot of you have already seen this, so there'll be no need to join me. Don't know if anyone watches Formula One, but the result for McLaren was very exciting. McLaren's first 1-2 in 11 years, which is, absolutely fantastic. And it just shows how much actual development can actually get to result, which is same for business. You can't always be successful, but if you put the work in, the effort in, work out what the right strategies are, work out who the right partners are, all these sort of key elements, you can actually be successful. And that goes for sports as well as it does for your business. So I've talked enough, so I am going to start going through why process mapping and why process maps are key foundational ingredient to any business. So, first of all, who am I? So, I'm Ian Warrender. I'm in charge of Warrender Technical Solutions, business support, providing organizational processing. So, organization is how your business is organized, what sort of structures in place, making sure that communication not only goes top down, which is focus that everyone does, but also make sure that communication goes upstream so that people understand the concerns of the people doing the day-to-day, and also downstream and upstream so that the information that someone needs downstream they get from people upstream, and the communication streams are open. Processes, well, we're going to talk about that a lot today, but it's also not just the mapping of it, it's the streamlining, the efficiencies, how you get from one thing to another. Planning, if you don't have a good planning system in place, you'll never achieve your goals. If you haven't identified what your goals are, that's even going to be more difficult to achieve where your business wants to go. Success is dependent on what the definition of success is, which is your goals. Success isn't just more clients, more money. That's part of the success. But what do you want your business to look like, and how are you going to get there? Systems, there is so many options for systems. There is so many little applications out there. There is some big integrated systems. And understanding the right balance, what works for your business, what is it that your business wants to do, and that must meet your processes. It's easier for small businesses to think they have to change your processes to meet the systems, but your processes are what makes you, you. And so finding the systems that fit that will enable you to be more successful. And administration. This is either one-off projects. I've got a background in document control, so there's a lot I can support with that, but also to help you with streamlining and automation within your administration. So that's what WTS is. I've got a degree in management engineering technologies, but far more important than that is I've got 15 years in business development, 15 years of business development experience, which enables me to do all these things we were talking about. So let's talk about why it's important to have a strong foundation for your business, because it is possible to build a business ad hoc. That is, you learn something, you implement it, you learn something else, you put it in, and just build your business without any strong idea of where you want to go. Just build it as and when. And the thing is that both will see growth. So that's why it's quite easy to consider building a business ad hoc progressively, because you'll still get growth. As long as you put time into the business will grow. The problem you're going to get is without a strong foundation, without knowing where your business wants to go, without putting certain key elements in place, you're going to get to a point when you're firefighting all the time, when you're checking what people are doing, when you're just spending 80% of your waking time trying to keep clients happy, keep the projects coming in. And that's not sustainable. That's going to lead to you being far too busy, chaotic. And unless you change things, you can't sustain that long term. And although you've got your growth, eventually that's going to come back and your business won't survive that. So having that strong foundation, having that growth, but also something is scalable, so you can have some continued growth and you continue building. That's where Warrender Technical Solutions is there to support you. One of those foundation elements are process maps. But what's a process map? Well, a process map is a flow of activities and data. A process map is a key instructions, and it always has a starting point. Now, you're going to have multiple processes within your business. You're going to have the core one that dictates what it is that you do. But in addition to that, you're going to have processes for your marketing. You're going to have processes for your cash flow, for your quotation system. You're going to have several different processes throughout the business, depending on what you do. But all those will have a fixed starting point, something that kicks off that element of the business. It's also going to have some identifiable inputs. So it's going to have either resources or people, or time. It's going to have inputs such as information. And so these inputs are both for product-based and service-based industries. There's going to be decisions within your business. There's going to be things that will dictate which path a certain process goes down. There's going to be decisions on what clients want. There's going to be decisions on how you want to handle a certain situation. Now, here I've got something particular called binary decision points, which I will detail a bit later. But the important thing is just to identify that there will be decisions, variables within your business. And from these, you'll get some outputs, some fixed outputs. These aren't the end results. These are either elements of the product that goes to the final product, or elements of information. If you service, if you're doing a report, there'll be elements that you'll create to go into that report, or solutions that you'll find, or whichever it is, there'll be elements that will go to the final thing. That won't be the final product or the final report. There'll be elements towards it. Obviously, you can't have a process map without having steps. These are the logical progression steps that take you through from your initial state to the final state. These are the ones that take you from your raw materials to your final product, from your investigation of information to your final solutions. These are the steps that will progressively take you through to the end result. And obviously you have some endpoints in there. You've got something that defines when a particular process has finished. And yes, that endpoint may go into another process map, it may feed into another process, but there will be a fixed thing that identifies what that process is ended. And so these are the key elements of any process map. Now here we've got some identifiable shapes that dictate what each of those elements are. And that's something when you join the course for process mapping in terms of how to develop it, that we'll go through. But these aren't key. This is something which I'll be talking about on the 4th day, I think it is. The key thing is to just develop these process maps, whether that is using post-it notes on a whiteboard and moving things around and see what fits and see what works. The generation of the process map is far more important than how it looks to make it formal. But as I did mention before, decision points are something which I would encourage you all to think about if you're creating your own process maps and you're not necessarily following the standard format. Now, here's a gross statement here. The client can choose between metal, hardwood, and plastic. Now, you could envisage a process map where you got this decision and you got 3 outputs from it. That select metal, they go down to some steps A. Hardwood go down to step B, plastic go down to step C. Now, process maps that I develop, you won't see that. What you'll see is binary decisions. Now, binary just means 2 options. So a yes, no, a stop, go, a wait, continue. Anyone that's done any basic programming will understand this, this gate system. Now, why is binary so important? Because initially, when you look at that, it looks very similar to the one that I had previously, just it's got more steps in now. Well, let's consider this. Did the client select metal? Yes, go down to step A. Okay, they didn't. Do they select hardwood? Yes, go to step B. No, plastic. If yes, go to step C. But here we've actually opened up something. We've got a 4th option. What happens if the client didn't select any of these? Well, you could say that's not an option. In our business, we already have these 3 materials, and if a client selects another one, we're going to feed them back into selecting one of these. There's still some steps there. There's still that communication to the customer, that description that then loops back into this. Or you could say we would help aid the customer in choosing one of these based on what their preferred selection would be. So we would look at what material they'll like, and they would say the closest we have to this is this material because of this reason. again, the steps there that you need to follow to make those decisions to aid the client to go back into this loop. Or you could say, well, yeah, if they go for bespoke material, there's going to be some extra cost in there. There's going to be some extra design work in there, and we do a whole series of different steps, which will be step D. Now, by having binary means that the options for the non-standard can be opened up. If you just had a one decision point with countless different elements going off it, the non-standard will be missed every single time because you'll think about what the standard elements are. And one of the key things about process maps is identifying those non-standard situations and what do you want to do with them. As a sole business owner, when the non-standard comes along, we just rely on our experience. We fall back on something we did 5 years ago, something we did a year ago, or maybe we've never done it before, but through our experience, we make a judgment on what to do with it, and then we'll do it. As soon as you start bringing people into your business, whether that's a VA, whether that is staff, they do not have that experience. They do not have that knowledge of what to do when the non-standard happens. And at that point, with a process map, you can give them that information of what you would do at this point, instead of them deciding something that you wouldn't do or making a snap decision that is harmful to the business, or constantly contacting you and going, follow the process map. This client is doing something completely out of it. I don't have no idea what to do with them. And then all you are is just a conduit for talking to them. And if you don't have a process map at all, then that communication between you and staff or VA will be even more constant, even more interruption to whatever it is that you're doing outside of the basic. So I'm going to go through 3 reasons why process maps are essential. There are plenty more reasons than 3. Today we'll be focused on 3 because I've got another meeting at 2, and I don't think you've got a whole afternoon to spend with me to go through the countless other reasons why process maps are essential. Now, for this bit, we need to follow either Bob or Bobby story. And because I've got no one on Zoom today, I've got a few people on YouTube, and I think got somebody on Facebook as well. Because we've got no one on Zoom, I'm going to pick Bobby just for the sake of aiding this discussion. So we're going to follow Bobby's story. Now, let's give Bobby some attributes. Let's say Bobby is 34. Let's say that she did some courses while in work. And let's say that Bobby is going to produce a product. And let's have a look. Let's say Bobby is going to produce some clothing, a clothing range. So previously to this, Bobby worked in a factory where she worked up to a supervisor to aid with the production of clothing, and she's decided she wants to go alone. She wasn't happy with the supervisor role. She wants to go alone, make her own clothing line, that she thinks she could do something different in the fashion world than what she's doing previously. Now, there's lots of things that we can assign to Bobby. We can look at her upbringing. We can talk about if she's married, got children. We can say what her goals are when she wants to retire. There's all sorts of things we could say about Bobby, but the important thing is to just identify that Bobby is a unique individual. That Bobby isn't you. She isn't me. I hope she's not me. That Bobby is a unique person that has her own hopes and her own ideas about things. And as with any business owner, she's just following her passion for what she wants to do. And in this particular thing, it's fashion. I will say for the rest of this presentation, I know absolutely nothing about fashion. So I apologize for anyone watching that knows a lot about fashion that I will get wrong in the next few minutes. The important thing is that Bobby is a unique individual that's going off to do own business in fashion because she wants to do something different. But Bobby, she's worked in the clothing industry. She's worked on the line making clothes. She's supervised people doing it. So there are things that she knows how to do from her past that are constant to that industry that she's going to be following through. But she's not doing it to replicate what she was doing in the corporate world. She's doing it because she's got some new ideas. She's doing it because she wants to bring some elements of the fashion world into her own personal views, her own personal tastes into it. So she's got some new ideas that she's going to bring into her past experience. But anyone starting a business knows that core function isn't all that she does. Now, Bobby isn't writing these down. She's not going to process map because she's going solo. These ideas are inside her head. She's got thoughts of how she's done things in the past and how she wants to do things in the future. They're not written down. They're not formalized. They're just ideas inside her head that she's going to be following. And as I was mentioning, we know that as a sole business owner, we're not just the core function. There's other functions that we do: marketing, cash flow, quotations, and Bobby doesn't have experiences in those. So Bobby has joined some communities, she's got some training, and she's learned some new elements. Now, with anything like this, there's going to be takeaways. She's going to take some ideas from those training and see how they fit her business. But similarly, she's going to bring new ideas to them. She's not going to replicate someone's training to the letter, because one, she'll probably do multiple training on these subjects. Two, she'll talk to people and she'll go, how did you do this? So it'll be an intermix of a lot of different elements that will aid her to come to some decisions on what she wants to do. And some of those will be her own ideas. Majority will be from external, some will be from her. Again, important to remember, she's not writing these down. She is going off gut instincts. She's going off what she feels is going to work for business. Now with the courses, she's probably been sensible. She's probably got some notes and things like that which she'll look at, but they're not formal process maps. They're just some notes, some general directions that she wants to do. 18 months go past. Bobby's had some failures, things that haven't gone quite to plan, but she's had some successes. Being what she is, from her experience, she's learned from them. She's changed what she's done to react to both those successes and those failures. And throughout all the processes, there's now some changes, some morphing. She's not writing these down, but she's changing the way that she does things progressively as she learns new things. Now, Bobby has been so successful that she's actually expanding. She's expanding a fashion world, and she's hired 3 people. Now we're going to come back to Bobby and her 3 people very shortly. Before then, I'm going to get you to do something. Now, I am absolutely sure that all of you have done some drawing at some point in your life. Be that when you're 5-year-old and got a picture on the fridge, or maybe you are an artist and more recently you have, this is something you do for a living. And so I'm going to commission you to draw me a picture. I'm going to give you some very simple instructions. and you're going to draw the picture. And then we're going to have a look, see what you drew, and I'm going to show you what you should have drawn. So get yourself a piece of paper and a pencil, or pen, but pencil's fine. So I want you to start off with a horizontal line about 2/3 up the page, 1/3 from the top. Just a straight horizontal line. Now, on the horizontal line, draw a semicircle. So we've got a horizontal line, 2/3 up, 1/3 down. We've got a semicircle on it, and dropping down from that semicircle to the bottom of the page is a triangle. Tomorrow I have a big networking event, over 100 people, which in this climate is a tiny bit nerve-wracking with everything that goes on, but I think it'll be really good for the business to interact with everyone. Right, we've got the triangle down to the bottom. Now inside that triangle, I want you to draw a smaller triangle. So we've got a big triangle, inside which we've got a smaller triangle. The thing I've realized the first face-to-face networking event I went to is I don't have any business cards. I'm going to need to develop something tomorrow so that people can contact me. Right, we've got a big triangle, inside which we've got a small triangle, so there's a gap between the inner and outer triangle. And inside that gap, I want you to draw a series of horizontal lines. Some point in the future, I'd like to do this face-to-face again, because face-to-face you can see what people's actually doing, and you can get a interesting sense of people's personalities when you see their interpretation of your instructions. Now, we've got this inner triangle. Now, in the inner triangle, I want you to draw a series of thin vertical rectangles. Yeah, face-to-face is definitely coming back in a big style. I've got a networking group that's only online where we plan to do one face-to-face in the near future, just so people can actually meet each other properly. And I've got a community where I'm meeting next week as everyone from the community that kind of come meeting up. So yeah, it's definitely the direction that we're all heading to. Right, now to the left hand of those thin vertical rectangles, I want you to draw me a car. A better car than I can draw, but yeah, on the left hand side of the thin vertical rectangle, draw a car. Now you've got your big triangle. On the left hand side of that big triangle, draw three thin vertical rectangles that goes up to the horizontal line that you drew earlier. So on the outside of the thin, on the of the big triangle, draw three thin vertical rectangles. Now, can you top those thin vertical rectangles with circles? To make it more interesting, we make them bumpy circles. Contracts are starting to come in, although after a very quiet July and August, you know how cash flow is. It's probably going to be November until any of those start coming through. So if anyone listening to this has any short-term contracts, any support work they would need, you know, that administration bit I was talking about beginning, let me know. And on the right-hand side, on the outside of that big triangle, could you draw 2 rectangles? But they don't need to be thin, just 2 rectangles on the outside of that big triangle. If you want to be artistic about it, make them 3D, make them cuboid. When you've done that, top one with a semicircle and the other one with a triangle. And very shortly, we will go through what you should have drawn. A lot of people at this point in time have either got a mess on the page. Some people have got scales. Always find that one interesting. And some people have some weird Picasso face thing going on, which I never quite understand how people get to that one, but I've seen it more than once. So let's go through what you should have drawn. I'm going to go through the exact same instructions I gave you. No different. We're just going to follow the exact same instructions and then see where we get to. So we've got a vertical line across a horizontal line, 2/3 up, 1/3 down, on which we have a semicircle. Dropping down from the semicircle, we have a triangle. Inside that triangle, we have a smaller triangle. Between the big triangle and the little triangle, we have a series of horizontal lines. Inside the smaller triangle, we have a series of thin vertical rectangles. On the left-hand side, I think we said we have a car. No, a car. That's the best I can do. On the left-hand side of the big triangle, we've got 3 thin vertical rectangles going up to the horizontal line. We top them with circles, but we try to make it interesting, so we made them bumpy circles. On the right-hand side, we're 2 not so thin triangles, but we made it interesting by making them cuboids. We topped one with a circle and the other one with a semicircle. Now, how many people that haven't done this before have got close to this? Why not? Was it the description I used? Was it the terminology? Was it your interpretation of what you're drawing, or was it my assumptions about your interpretations? Or was it a mixture of all of these? The reality is, it's actually a mixture of all these. And this is due to the verbal communication. If someone's coming into your business, a new staff member, and you sit them down and you start talking to them about their role, they're starting off with a blank piece of paper. They don't have a picture to follow. They don't have an understanding of what it is that you're trying to convey to them. Verbal communication has several problems with it, not more than the assumptions of the person speaking and the interpretations of the person listening. But more than that, if someone's coming into your business and they don't understand the industry, you might not want to use complex terms. You know, virtually all industries have certain terminology that's unique to them, whether it's in accounting or finance. But, you know, the catering, you know, baking has terminologies, manufacturing, all industries will have certain unique abbreviations, terms of what it is that people do. Now, when you're describing it, you might not want to use those terms. You might try to want to simplify it in the same way that I didn't use the word sunset. I didn't use the word road, buildings, trees, because I don't know what your assumptions are. So I kept it simple. But by keeping it simple, it actually complicates it in some way. In addition to that, somebody that's just been talked at in terms of their instructions of what they should be doing, you don't know what their takeaways are. They might be making notes, but what you feel is important on that process, they're not going to know. They're just going to take what they feel is important. And then you got the issue of the example that you may be talking through might be unique to a particular client, a particular situation. And you know that because you've been doing it. They might make the assumption that what you're telling them is standard across everything. And you might only find out further down the road that they made that assumption when something goes wrong with a different client that needs different variables. But then you might say, well, I'll just keep giving them the instructions. Well, that means that you're going to spend a lot of time sitting, talking to them. Give them some instructions, send them away to follow those instructions, and then coming back and finding each time that they haven't quite followed something, they haven't quite understood it. And that's where process maps come into it. Process maps give them those instructions, give them the notes of what is actually important on the process. With a glossary of abbreviations and terminologies, gives them the understanding of the industry they're starting to work in. Moreover, if you're training somebody, you can create a training process and say, I want you to follow these specific steps. And as they come back as being isn't quite right, you can update that process map so the next person following it actually has a better understanding of it. Now, I'm not saying ditch the verbal communication, ditch the talking to people training. That is vital to improve relationships, to allow for back and forth of questions. But combined with process maps will allow people to get on with the work faster. This is even more vital if someone's remote, if someone's either working for you remotely or is a VA and they don't actually work with you. Giving them a document they can go away with and not needing your access to you constantly is vital to make sure that you spend your time as efficiently as possible. So why are process maps essential? The third reason is training, to give people that understanding of why it is that they're doing, what it is that they're doing, those steps on what you're doing that are non-standard. Yes, for 90% of clients, we do this, this, and this, and this. If you get this, you do this instead. And having those decisions, having the ability to put those information down so that somebody can pick it up. And if you're not there, they can still get on with their job, their function within the business. Now, we left Bobby. Bobby's just gone to hiring 3 people. And Bobby was smart. She went to WTS and said, I'm thinking of expanding. What's some of the things I should be thinking about? And we said, one of them is process maps. We could help you with that. So we generate the process maps for Bobby. Now, we don't have those fancy colors in there because it doesn't matter to us whether these were ideas from a previous job, whether these were brand new ideas that she came up with, or whether this was from experience. All we end up with is some details of some processes that she as a business follows. Now, a couple of things are going to happen. One, when we're generating these, Bobby's going to see her business for the first time top down. She's been in amongst it. She's been doing it. She's been living those processes day in, day out, but she never had the ability to step back and go, this is what you're doing. And when she sees that, there are going to be certain steps where she's going to go, we do this because of a problem I had early on, and actually I don't need to do that anymore. Or she's going to say, looking at this is clunky and I want to do it this other way. Because she's got the experience of the business, she knows how the business functions, and that will enable her to be able to make decisions like that. But moreover than that, Bobby is also, like, when I'm going through the process maps with her, I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to ask her why certain things are a certain way. I'm going to say what happens if. And that what happens if could be it's never happened. I can't even see it happening in this industry. At which point in time we just have a simple box that says "See Bobby." We try not to have many of those in there, but if it's something really, that Bobby's never considered came across, fine. We'll have it in there just in case. At least somebody knows if it does happen that once in 20 years, we know what we're doing with it. Could say, well, actually, last year this happened and I did this, but if it happens again, I want to do other. Again, we've got some development there. We put it in. We're putting Bobby's experiences on paper. We're putting her decisions on paper. But she's going to use this for training. She's going to be bringing it to people that's not her generation, probably people that are, people that she doesn't know in terms of their background. And they could ask, why do you do it this way? Sometimes Bobby could be saying, we do it this way because this is the way we do it. End of story. Other times go, well, how would you do it? Well, I would use this other system. Bobby's never heard of that system before. It's brand new. Something for Bobby to investigate and maybe develop the processes further. The processes, by existing, are going to develop. They're going to move on. And so Bobby and her people, those process maps are going to evolve. But a couple of good things about that evolution is it's going to be documented. We're going to have an initial state. We're going to have a future, a current state. And if anything doesn't quite work with any of those changes, we've got a previous process map to fall back on. If an element of the change doesn't work, we can look at it and go, what did it affect? Well, how could we fix that? But then there's also the future. Bobby's thinking of bringing in a brand new system, a CRM to track her customers, customer relationship manager. How does that impact the business? Well, you can put that in a process map as an intended future state. What does it change? What does it change in terms of the staff? What does it change in terms of her, in terms of the client, in terms of the output? All these things you can put in. Now, you can see then if that new system you're bringing in is suitable for the business. And then you can release that process map when you bring a new system. Theories often don't match reality, but it's not going to be a massive way out. It's definitely going to be a starting place. And when the system comes in and we come across new elements, we will then just put those elements in the process map and again develop it further. Might be a brand new system you look at, and then you see what impact it has on the business. You go, no, I don't like what that's going to do to the business. Then you don't bring it in. But you're making a decision based on known information. You're not just thinking, I'm going to bring it in, what's going to change? I might change that. But you're actually using known information to make decisions on the same way you do with anything else. When you have your cash flow and you look at how last year worked and so what you're going to do different this year. When you look at your marketing KPIs, so you look at your marketing structure, you go, well, this particular networking group brought me in this amount of money. And so next year, I'm going to focus more on this particular network group than I am on something else. Having those KPIs, those documented elements, help the business move forward. And process maps are no different in terms of giving you that structure, that understanding that will enable you to make decisions. So why process maps essential? Business improvement, be that looking at future improvements, be that looking at the current state, be that just a document so that you can make judgment on. As a business expands, if you're going from 1 person to 2 people, 2 to 4, 4 to 6, 6 to 12, whatever your growth is, you don't want to just keep those process maps identical each time. What you want to do is understand, if I'm bringing in this person, am I going to break a bit of this process off and give it specifically to that person as a focus? And then going to develop that particular process in itself and then move things on. You can make those decisions. So right at the beginning, we chose between Bob and Bobby. And Bob is a few years younger than Bobby. He's just turned 30. He too is going into fashion. He's not happy with the way fashion is going, and he wants to do some retro fashion that he thinks is going to be the new future, the old new future. And he's actually not doing too bad. He's, his training that he did is slightly different to Bobby. And even if he went to the same training courses, his outtake is going to be different. So his overall processes, his overall scope is going to be different to Bobby's. He's not the same person. He's got different backgrounds. He did fashion art straight after school. He's a bit younger generation, so it's something that they did at school. And so there are definite differences between the two. But he's just been just as successful as Bobby, and he has hired 3 people. He didn't get his process maps mapped out. They're still inside his head. So his instructions to his 3 staff are mostly verbal, mostly showing them, mostly just trying to get them to do what he wants to do. But, it's not bad. As I said, his processes are going to be different. They're not going to be identical to Bobby's. There's going to be some core elements that do the same. They're in the same industry, so the core elements are going to be similar, but there's going to be some significant differences in how they get to those core structures, how they get to some of the outputs, because they are different people. They have different outtakes in terms of how the world works. But Bobby's being more, her business is continuing to expand, and Bobby is noticing that. He's noticing that she seems to be getting the bigger orders, that her website appears to be busier. And so because of that, he thinks to himself, what is it that's about Bobby's work, Bobby's business that's better than mine? And he hears this idea that people are the business. And so he makes the assumption that if he has the 3 people that Bobby has working for him, he's going to be just as successful, because it's people that keep making mistakes, that don't follow his instructions quite as well. He's constantly checking on them. He's doing a lot of firefighting. He's trying to keep clients happy. He's actually doing some of the work himself a lot of time when his 3 staff's gone home. And he's not getting through the work as fast as he thinks he should be, and as fast as Bobby appears to be, who just seems to be able to let her staff get on with it. So it must be the people that are the difference. And he goes online and finds out that those 3 people like bacon, and in this fictional world that we've got, he offers them 3 bacon sandwiches every morning and a higher wage than Bobby is. And he hires them. Bobby's looking now for 3 people in this fictional world. There's 3 people that suddenly don't have a job, and she hires them. Now, just because they've swapped the people doesn't mean that they swap the processes, that they swap businesses. No. See, although Bobby's got 3 people, she's still going to educate them. She's still going to train them on her process maps. Sure, they may bring in something, a new idea that she hasn't considered, that she could consider putting into a process map, but the majority of what they'll be doing will be following Bobby's processes. They will be following what she wants to do. She won't be deviating from her success from before and saying, get on with it. Simply, Bob might be thinking he's getting 3 people to, do the work successfully, but he's going to be still instilling in them some certain key aspects that he thinks are important, that he thinks are going to make him successful in a unique way. And he's going to be imparting that verbally. And those people aren't going to be bringing through the process maps from Bobby, because that's not what staff generally think are critical elements. So even the elements that they're allowed to do freely are probably not going to be as close to or as follow through as Bobby's processes. Now, briefly, before we leave this, why is it that there is a feeling that people are the business? It's because of culture. In 10 years after you've worked at a place, it's not the minute-to-minute working that you remember. It's the conversations. It's the conversations about what people do the weekend. It's the conversations about family. It's the conversations about sports teams. They're the conversations that link you, that build up a culture within the business. Because when you're actually doing the work, that's just what you have to do to get your wage at the end of the day. And although people might have passion for certain things, you're working for somebody else and you're following their ideas and processes. And filling out a spreadsheet or making a particular thing isn't something you remember 10 years down the line. You remember the conversations, but the processes is what makes that business successful. It's the processes that are the unique identity of that business. And it's the process map that have that unique identity in it. Bobby and Bobby, the difference between them isn't the people, it's the processes that they follow. And although people can make a difference in terms of skill level, in terms of hiring and various different things, it's the processes that are the critical element that if you could train people on, if you can follow through on, if your processes are correct and you've got a successful process in there, that's what's going to make your business successful. So why are process maps essential? They represent the business's DNA. They represent what it is that's unique about that business, what it is that business is doing that no other business, even in that industry, is doing, that identifies you, puts you different to all the rest. Now, when I say people are the business, there are an exception. There are some exceptions, but the main one is when you have a certain individual. So let's go back to Bobby. Bobby's business goes from strength to strength. She hires back one of her old people, she hires some more, and she's starting to get a real larger business sense. She's moving away from that sole business owner to that business owner with a significant HR. And here we have Tim. Tim has always shown aptitude for marketing. And he's always been good around marketing. And Bobby recognizes that. And so she sends him on some marketing courses, sends him on some certified marketing courses. And when he comes back, she gives him the marketing department because she's getting bigger now. She's separating her staff out into different departments. Now, when we did that picture earlier, and we started off with a blank piece and we ended up with that fairly generic line drawing. If I gave it to an actual artist and I gave them proper instructions, so I told them about the cityscape with the tree lines on one side, the buildings on the other, and the sunset and a road going off in the distance, they would paint me an actual piece of art. They would paint me something that is beyond what my descriptions were. And that happens when you hire people that have an expertise in a certain area. We said right at the beginning, Bobby wasn't an expert in marketing, something necessary to enable her business to function. Now she's got Tim, who's certified and got a certified marketing course. It's always an aptitude for it. He is going to enhance her processes. And so he's going to come in and make some changes. He's probably not going to make some wholesale changes because, one, it's because her business is successful. It's proven that it's, the processes are completely out of it. Equally, when we generally hire somebody, especially someone successful that we work with, they generally have the same thinking as us, a similar sort of ideas of how to do things. Not identical because everyone's unique, but a similar way of thinking, which means that when they make those changes, when they make those updates to processes, we generally can follow the lines that they're going. Got the expertise, so they're probably going to make some better decisions than us, but we can understand those decisions. So although Bobby's probably want to be involved in some of those changes just to make sure the department's going, she's not going to be overbearing on it. She's going to understand that Bobby's got the expertise, that Tim's got the expertise, and that she could let Bobby get on with it. And in that way, certain key individuals within a business can make a significant difference because they have the expertise to bring your processes and take them on to the next level. So, before we finish up here, what's the three main reasons why I think process maps are a foundational element to a business? Training, so that you've got that written instruction of what to do at certain key points of the business. It's not meant to be restrictive, it's just the key points that allows the business to function. So that if you go on holiday for a week, you know the business is going to continue functioning when you're not there. If you're busy on a call, you know that the person isn't going to suddenly stop doing what they're doing and wait till you're off the call to say, what do I do at this point? Business improvement, it gives you a documented way of seeing your business, so you can make decisions based on known information, not just based on gut feelings or general thoughts or other people have done this. It'll give you a fixed document that says this is how we're currently doing things, how do we want to do things in future. And they represent the business's DNA. They represent why the business is, what the business is doing that's unique, what it's doing that's been successful. You can identify those elements and enhance them and bring your processes on even more. Now, as I mentioned right at the beginning, for those that weren't here at the beginning, got a process mapping course next week. I've got another one coming up on the 10th to the 14th of January. If you are interested in one next week, even though I think it's very short notice, message me. My email address is on the left hand there. And we'll discuss. But we've got another one, as I said, 10th to the 14th. It's only for 15 businesses because I like to make sure that there's some one-to-one time there because each business is unique. So it's important to discuss your unique elements, see where process maps fit into your business. It's a 5-day journey on what makes businesses, on how to build your process map. And so the first day is called the blank page, where we remove all of the preconceived notions that you may have about your business to enable you to step back and produce that process map. Second day is the structure, so how the process map should be generated to try and get you to start thinking in terms of the questions you'd be asking, how you identify, make sure that you're not just going from step A to D, but you have B and C in there. Third day is quite important because we talk about the creativity versus restrictive. There's some thoughts there that process maps give a far too restrictive view of businesses, which isn't the whole point. A creative business has needs for process map just as much as a system-based business. It's the elements of identifying when to use process maps and when not. Test and confirm cycle, and so creating the process map is one thing, but making sure that all elements of the business actually agree with that is another. And then the last day is where we start going into formats and styles and things like swim lanes and details like that, which are very important in terms of allowing the process map to be scalable, to be a business quality. But the generation, the first 4 days, that generation is more important than how the format of the styling works. Obviously, you'll have access to my insights and experience, and you don't need any process mapping software. A computer with Zoom is obviously required, access to Microsoft Office because they have the shapes, and a pencil and paper will be sufficient for actually generating your first process map. Been here for an hour. I've got another meeting starting in a few seconds, so I'm going to leave it off there. Scan the QR code for the thing, and I will speak to you all very soon. Thank you very much for your time today. This is Ian from Warrender Technical Solutions.